Hey, nurse CEOs, and welcome back to another episode of the NurseBoss Shift. On today's episode, we talk to Coach T, owner of Aurora Health and Wellness, on her entrepreneurial journey as a nurse practitioner. Coach T exemplifies what leading with value and passion is all about. She walks us through her tough journey on becoming a mom and how she now helps other moms who have difficult deliveries and children with disabilities cope. She also wrote a children's book to help others learn how amazing children with disabilities are. Coach T set out to help her community of Black women navigate motherhood with her blog, Bottle, Boobs, and Feeding Tubes, and now gets paid to do what she's passionate about. If you're someone who has a burning desire deep down inside to monetize your passion, listen in on Coach T and hear how she made the big leap.
Welcome to the Nurse Boss Shift. It's your girl, Dr. Kiana Jones.
And Crystal P, the Beauty NP.
And we have a special guest, Coach T, who is joining us, hailing from Arizona. And
Yes.
she is, you guys can already guess, she is a nurse entrepreneur. And so she's coming in to drop some value about her journey in entrepreneurship, what she's doing, and how she is creating impact. And she is not at the bedside doing so. So welcome, Coach T.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before we get started, we always like to ask people just a little bit about their background. Like start with, you don't have to go deep, but just kind of let us know kind of your trajectory on how you ended up where you are right now.
Okay, so I'm Coach T or Tasha, whichever you prefer. I started and I got my RN in 2008. So I never wanted to be a nurse. It was not my dream job. My grandma, she was a nurse, and she used to tell me growing up I should be a nurse, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna be a nurse. And then I went to school for pre-vet, and those first 2 years, I kind of had a little too much fun. And academic probation my sophomore year, and I started doing research more because I was like, oh, I want to be a pre-vet, but I never actually went and looked into the program and all of its requirements. And I learned that you need to get like a 3.5 at least. And I was like, well, you can go ahead and check that one out. I don't think I'm gonna make that one. But then I woke up one day and it was just in my head. It was like, go to nursing school. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And I went online, I looked up the prereqs, started doing all the courses. I changed my major to sociology because it aligned with a lot of the coursework that required for nursing, like the prerequisites. So I was like, all right, if I don't get into nursing, then I got sociology. I'll figure something out after the fact. And then I got, so for 2 years straight, 4.0, really got into it. Still didn't like nursing. I didn't like nursing until I actually got to the bedside. As an Army nurse, I started working with wounded soldiers that were coming back from Iraq or their family members that were having surgery or getting sick for whatever reason. And that's when I kind of started really, realizing what nursing was, because I thought it was just bedpans, cleaning bedpans, and passing meds. And I was like, no, this ain't gonna be my full time. I'm gonna figure something else out. But I knew right away that I was gonna go back for my NP when I first went to nursing school. So I always knew, and I had that thought that, I want my own practice. I know that nurse practitioners can have their own practice, and some states they can practice very to the highest level of their degree. So it was always, once I made that decision to do nursing, that was where I knew I was going to go.
So I know you're the owner of it's Aura Health and Wellness, right?
Aurora Health and Wellness.
Aurora Health and Wellness, right? Located in Arizona, which is a full practice state.
Yes.
So tell us about your practice.
I'm primary care, so I'm family nurse practitioner, so I can see newborns on up. I also do health coaching, and then I'm specialized in perinatal mental health. So, dealing with postpartum or pregnant moms that have depression, anxiety, even just the baby blues, or just transitioning from pregnancy to parenting and not realizing how much goes into it
Mhm.
and what we're not prepared for. And then when you have like a baby that ends up in the NICU or a pregnancy loss or things like that, you don't realize that it's still postpartum. So women who lose a baby, they still go through that postpartum period, even though they don't have that baby. So there's a lot of support that I realized after I had my kids that was missing.
And so you just started though in January, right?
I did. Well, so
Eh.
building. It's been building. I developed my business name in 2020, and then that's when everything happened. And I was working during the pandemic, and it was just like, okay, well, I don't know if I'm really ready to like jump out there and really start a practice.
Mhm.
And so I went, and then in 2021, I took a break, became a stay-at-home mom, and then this last school year, all my kids are in school. So I was like, all right, it's time. And I found a location. And yes, I'm open as of January.
Wow,
Yay.
congratulations. That's
Yes,
awesome.
congratulations.
Yeah, excited.
And you said you knew that you wanted to start your own practice one day. Was that just always in the back of your head, or were you like in school and you decided that? And then what kept you on that path to seeing that goal through?
To be honest, it was because I kept being told as a child that I was going to be a doctor. So, like, for a while, I felt like I fell short of that doctor goal because I saw doctor and thought MD. That was the only way for that doctor. It was like MD, MD, MD. And I was like, I didn't make it. I was like, and I would go back. I'm like, do I really want to go to med school? I'm like, I don't think I really want to go back to med school. But and it was one of those I like once I found out what nurse practitioners can do, and I was like, well, that's kind of where I want to be. It's I'm able to do exactly what I wanted to do and become more accepting in that role, and not really um, feeling like you fell short. It's just you are accomplishing it differently.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so, but you were already, I know you were saying you were kind of planting seeds throughout. And then was it just the fact that, like, okay, my kids are off to school, or was there something more that made you like, okay, this is the time? Like, was it, I don't know, financial? That was it, did everything kind of come to into position, or was it like, you wanted to take more control of your time? Was there something that was like, besides the kids going back to or being in school, that made you decide to take that step? And did you have any obstacles? Did you have any challenges or
Number one challenge was funding, finding funding. But no,
Yeah.
it was always an idea. I think for me, it was building that confidence in that, like, no, you know what you're doing. You've
Mhm.
ran other people's practices, and you know you have the skills, and just building that confidence in myself that, like, you know what, you're gonna really go out and do it. I teetered with some things and I was like, okay, well, maybe a mobile or maybe this or maybe that. And I kept trying to shy away from actually starting my practice. I was like, well, I can do this or I can do that. And I'm like, you know what? No, it's time. And that was like the last thing when my kids went to school. And I was like, okay, I got time. I'm sitting here at home. Like, you could be doing something. And then I'm scrolling the internet. I'm scrolling Instagram and the office where I'm at had an ad and it said you can get a suite. And I was like, well, let me look into it. I thought it was fake. I really thought it was fake. I was like, all right, let me
Hmm.
see. And so I went and I came and looked at it and I was like, well, this is perfect. It's a space that I could start and build my clientele. And I took that as the sign that go ahead and just do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have any background besides, I know you've been in the military, but like, because one thing nurses, they don't know, like, one of the biggest questions aside of funding is not knowing where do I start? Like, how and you and I both know it's not just about getting a building, it's so much internal work that has to be done, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um and so how did you make that mental shift to do it? Like, did you have a mentor? Did you have or did you just like hit the books and like yourself study and learn the state laws and what it takes to open a business? Like, how did you do that?
Pretty much what you just said. It was, okay, what do I need? My initial, I would say my first experience was I worked retail health, and that it's basically sometimes you have an MA and sometimes you're a one-man show. So you're running the insurance card. You're making sure you're
Mm.
collecting the co-pays. You're making sure the clinic is up to code. You have to do, I was the manager as well. So my clinic had to be up for inspections. When we had the health department came in, they would do different inspections. So learning policies and procedures and understanding that develop your where they are either on the internet or in a binder. Just basically understanding the whole flow of a clinic. So I think I got some of that experience, and that's what kind
Mhm.
of built some of the framework. But a lot of it was, like you said, personal development, reading, learning the laws, looking up stuff. And some of it was on the fly because I'm like, hey, I want this office space. And they were like, well, do you have business insurance? I'm like, I have malpractice insurance. They're like, no, you need business insurance. But it needs
Uh-huh.
deductible. And this has to have this maximum $1 million coverage. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. I have one. Like, why do I need all this? So
Yeah.
a lot of it was just that, or being blessed with people just randomly coming in and saying, "Hey, you need to know this." I met some people who were like, "Oh, you should talk to this financial advisor." And the financial advisor sent me to this banker, and this banker is telling me about funding and grant writing and different things like that, and or working with nonprofit organizations to see how the business side of it flow. Like if you want a real full organization, you're going to need a board, and who is on the board, and what positions do they operate. And so it's a lot, and it's a lot of
Mhm.
as I go, and I'm like, well, I'm out there now, so
Yeah.
I think that speaks a lot because we tell nurses all the time to take this first step and decide. And then once you do that, it's I want to say miraculously, but we know then either people are sent to help you or you get little nuggets here and there. So it's all about making that first step and deciding. And it sounds like once you did that, then you had people kind of help you along the way while you're figuring it out. And it's also good because people are so there's this, I don't want to do clinical if you're a nurse practitioner, I don't want to do bedside, but there's a lot of learning that happens.
yeah,
And for you running that clinic by yourself, I'm sure it got annoying and frustrating at times, but it also taught you so much and was able to set you up to be able to open your own. So that's why when we're at these jobs, we need to have our eyes open and be just not there complaining, but looking and
yeah,
seeing what you're doing, especially if we're interested in starting something of our own. So I think
yeah,
that's
Definitely. And and that is, it can't, it's so true that we always say that about stepping out because I don't know your faith, but I believe in God, and it's just like the divine steps in. But because you've already been seeded it, like you've been thinking about it, it's been growing in you, and you just have allowed fear to win. And then
mhm,
at some point there's like a crossroad where you're like, if I don't do it, then I'm going to get more of the same. And I'm not
mhm,
okay with more of the same anymore. So now I'm just going to do it. I don't know
yep,
what I'm doing. And it's funny that you say that because the same is how I learned when I was starting my med spa about insurance. So I didn't know that I needed malpractice insurance, had no idea how to get it. So much so that I contacted my homeowner's insurance guy, like, can you help me? Because I didn't know. But you know what the value in that is? Every time I stepped out in anything I've done in my career, it's always worked out.
yeah,
Even if
yeah,
the outcome wasn't what I expected, it's always worked out. And that's why we are so adamant about encouraging nurses, especially to step out. And this condition, this climate and these conditions that we're working under, we don't have to endure that stress. Like, the level of burnout is unreal right now. And yet we are still going back to those toxic environments, even though we want more out of because we're just simply afraid. So,
yeah.
but I see that you wrote children's books and like, do you feel like you're motivated by your like kind of your values or what makes what even I can't even I wouldn't even know the first thing first of all about writing a children's book, but even if I did, I wouldn't want to. So how did that come about?
So I've always wanted. I like to write. So writing has been
Okay.
my therapy.
Okay.
write poetry when I was younger, and I always started a novel saying I'm gonna write this novel, and I never did. I'd start like a page or two, and then I'm like, oh, I'm done. When I had my twins, one of my daughters had problems with eating. She ended up with like a feeding tube around 5 months after like failure to thrive and just trying to
Mm.
figure out how to get her to eat.
Mhm,
And she
mhm.
had some developmental delays. And so for me, again, I'm one of those research nurses. I'm not saying go to Google, but I'm saying if you know how to research, do your research. And I would go down and I'm trying to figure out like, okay, well, I see she's having this, and that. She has low muscle tone. She doesn't suck very well. Um she doesn't really cry for food. She doesn't. So I'm trying to go through and I'm looking at different diagnoses and to see, okay, well, could it be cerebral palsy? At one point in time, she was like only moving one side of her body, and I was like, well, I know, but I was like, she doesn't have everything else that lined up with it. And so I'm just going down for my own to so when I go to these doctors, I'm like, hey, I have this, that, and the third. I think I need to see uh who endocrinology. I think I need to see genetics. I think I need to see, and I was directing their care, and I was basically in there like, okay, she has this going on. I would like a referral to, and I'm pretty sure I probably was annoying them, but also they were very good. My pediatrician, all the specialists were very like good with like listening to me and like saying, "Oh, okay." Um, so I was like, I should write a children's book about this. And I sat down. I was working. It was I published it in 2020. So it was a little bit. It was in about 2019. We were going through like having her. She was in early intervention for developmental delays and having a feeding tube. And I just sat down and I went down the alphabet and found a diagnosis that I wanted to write about. I researched it, and then I would create a character based on what the disability was about, and then just highlight some of their abilities. And
I love that.
Wow.
I
yeah,
love that so much.
I
And
love it
is that
too.
what led to the blog? Because then, or the blog was first.
I'm I'm all over the place,
No,
honestly.
I love it though. That's how you,
Mhm.
for
Um,
me, that's how you find out what you love by trying everything. And then, yeah.
so the blog was first. It kind of, I think I want to say it was simultaneously. I was working on a lot. I was like, "Ooh, I can do a blog," and then I thought of a name, and the name just kept going in my head over and over and over again. Initially, I said I was going to write that book. Remember that book I said?
Mhm,
It was
mhm,
gonna be
mhm.
titled my blog, and I was like, as I sat down to write it, I was like, "This one's boring. I'm gonna just write a blog." And then I started researching like blogs and the potential behind them, and then I think it was all around the same time. Then I started writing the book, and then my husband, he draws. He's an illustrator, so I have him
Okay.
draw the characters.
And tell the name of your
Wow.
blog because I think it's so cute.
Her camera, um, the blog, you
Uh-huh.
said bottles, boobs, and feeding tubes.
Yeah. And
Love
what
that.
I loved about it when I seen that was like, people forget there are babies who are requiring, feeding through feeding tubes. And so you're very inclusive with that. Cuz even if that wasn't the case, I would just like that because I know that you're thinking about other moms who may have, what you call it, extenuating circumstances for feeding their baby. And I just love that so much.
Thank
Yes,
you, thank
yes.
you.
Did your journey and experience of what you went through with your children, your daughter, did that also play a part in who you wanted to serve in your clinic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say all of my kids. I didn't realize postpartum anxiety was a thing when I had my son 8 years ago. It wasn't talked about. It was the postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis or baby blues. I had no idea like postpartum anxiety was even a thing, and I was like, and my husband was like, "You need to stop reading." I'm like, "Well, I'm a reader," but it was like, "Why is he crying? Why is he? Why is this? Why is this going on?" And I was always researching,
Ooh.
and for like the first couple months, I was like, "This is not fun. Like I should be enjoying moments instead." And so I was like, I'm just gonna stop. And I stopped reading everything. And that's when I really started to like build my confidence in what my like reading my son and understanding his needs. And I found, like, I forgot the name of it, but there's this milestone, and it was always telling you about the fussy periods, and there's certain fussy periods around certain ages, and I started looking at them, and I that was the only thing I looked at for the rest of that year. And I was like, why are you so fussy? And I'd go look, and I was like, oh, this is the milestone. They tend to be going through this development, and they might be a little bit more fussy. I was like, okay. So that was my first experience. My second, back when in 2017, I was pregnant with my daughter, and she had encephaly, where part of her brain and skull doesn't form. So I didn't know that until I was 20 weeks. So I had to deliver her and all that kind of stuff. That's where Aurora Health and Wellness comes from. Her name was Aurora Lily. So um, that was that experience, pregnancy loss, going through that with a child. Like, it was like, oh, those are things you don't think about. And then with my twins, it was the feeding problems, the developmental delays, and just overall, I was like, you know what? If I had not known half the stuff I know in the medical field, I couldn't imagine going through this experience, all three experiences. Like I said, I was in there with the doctors, like, hey, I think we need this. And they're like, oh, no, let's not try that. It took me a long time to get her feeding tube. And finally, last time, I was like, no, she needs a feeding tube. She's not eating. This is stressful for her. It's stressful for my husband. He was the only one that could get her to eat. I'm like, no, this is what we need to do. But if I did not know that I could speak for myself, if I didn't even know, like, some of the terms or going in, like, hey, we need to get this done. I need this procedure. I need to go to genetics. I need to go to endocrinology to check her hormones, see if there's a problem with that. They would have just been like, oh, come back, come back. And I'd hate to see, like, what kind of outcome she would have had if I didn't know. So it definitely opened my eyes to other people's experiences.
That's such
So
a
true.
nurse. Such a nurse.
Like,
So
like, I care about other people though. Like, how other people? Yeah.
I feel like what you've done, Coach T, is, just, this short time, I feel like you've found a way to monetize your passion. And to me, when you are able to find that cross between what you love and that you're this has a direct connection to your kids. Like, so you're going to have a level of passion that a lot of people won't. This is connected to your children, your experiences, your angel. Like, it's so much deeper. So I feel like, just hearing what you're saying, is that you took that and you found a way to make it a part of your life to help other people. And I always say, for me, anytime I do anything, and I think I can speak for Crystal too, like, when I know there's somebody who need me, I can show up more I can be more present, right? And I'm gonna, like, I don't have to sleep. I'm gonna go hard because I know people need me. And so by being able to connect and think about the people who are not nurse practitioners, are not in healthcare at all, and they may not have the ability to research, they may not love to read, and for you to be able to think about them on your journey, and that makes, is the reason why you made the decision to help other people. But my question to you is, how are you able to monetize this? Are you insurance paid? Are you cash paid? Are you just getting paid with love?
Well,
Seems like it.
a lot of networking, a lot of just being out there and being present and just saying, hey, I'm in this community. I'm for our community. We need to, especially with Black moms, our death rates in maternal health care is the highest. So we need someone that looks like us, that understands us. And it's just, I'm like, right now, I'm like, this is the journey. Uh, I feel like the money will come. I'm not really too worried about that. It's more so just getting it out there and, like, helping people learn. But I do take insurance and I am cash
Oh,
pay.
okay.
So
Okay, that's good too. That's good too. I
yeah.
I I feel like a lot of your funding could actually come from grants for the Black mothers, for sure.
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of, when we get off, I'll connect you with someone who, I know, who helps with grant writing, and she's an African American woman, who I've met. Crystal, you know who I'm talking about. And so
Mhm.
I'll connect you with her because she actually gives a lot of what do you call these trainings to help especially women of color get access to grants and fundings. And I think this would be definitely easily hands down something that you can get funding for, because we know that this is a problem. We know that Black moms are in danger when they every time we get pregnant and go into the hospital to have our baby. So I think, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
um
Well, thank you. I
yes,
appreciate that.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Any help, any help.
Thinking about our listeners, how important would you say it is to create a business around something that you are passionate about? Like, could you see yourself just opening in something else that, maybe the money's there? Should they go for that? Or was it important to you to create these businesses around something that's already so passionate? Because I think a lot of times we think nurses think that they can't start businesses or we're not smart enough, but it's like you have all this knowledge. All you have to do is figure out a way to monetize it. So how would you say that's is important when thinking about starting a business?
I think that will keep you going on the days where you're like, I don't really want to do this. So for me, it's like some days I'm like, I don't even want to go to the office today. I don't even have a patient today. Like, why am I even going to drive over there? But then when I get here, there's things I could be working on. There's tasks that I could be doing just to move that needle further. So I feel like the passion is what will drive you on those days when you don't feel like doing it. Um, and chasing the money that's quick, like they say, that quick money, if you burn out, you ain't gonna make no money because you're not doing it no more. So if there's something that you're not passionate about and you're not really, for me, it's a community service. So I feel like it's me providing a service to someone who needs it, and that's what motivates me. So
Yeah. Yeah. So I because do you consider, so you're definitely an entrepreneur, you're a full-time entrepreneur.
yes.
And a lot of people, especially nurses, we like flirt with entrepreneurship a little bit,
Mhm.
meaning like we still keep our full-time job. We're like we're so afraid that we're not willing to really jump. And I didn't jump. I went from full-time to part-time to per diem, and then I finally in 2021 became a full-time entrepreneur. But my question for you is, what are, would you say, three things that anyone, like say that's in healthcare, maybe they're at the bedside, maybe they're at clinic, whatever, but they really want to jump into entrepreneurship, what would you say are three things that really helped you um make that transformation or make that change?
For me, one of them is my husband. He's been very supportive. So it was like, hey, I'm about to quit my job, and he's like, okay. I'm like, well, what are we here? And he was like, we'll figure it out. And I'm like, okay. I was really burnt out after COVID. It was like, I'm like, I didn't even, at that time, I was done with healthcare. I wasn't even sure. I'm like, I don't even know if I want to do this. I'm like, I'm going to go try to be a model.
I heard that.
Model audition. I was like, I'm going to try to be a model.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm done with healthcare. But it was like, okay, no, it was fun, but I keep coming back to this. So that was one, is just having that support, someone having, you don't really need that external validation, but like if you have, especially if you have kids and you have someone that's like, yep, let's do this, let's jump out there. That is one thing that helped me. Two is just having confidence. I think a lot of it is we're in our own heads. And school doesn't prepare us for entrepreneurship. It prepares us for the bedside. It's like, oh, where are you going to go? And I'm like, I joined the military right off the back. And they're like, well, you're going med surge. And I'm listening to all my classmates, and they're like, well, I'm going ER. And I'm like, I want to do that. And they're like, I'm going psych. I was like, I want to do that too. And then I'm thinking I'm about to be just stuck in my box of med surge when I joined. And it was like, um, you do that. And then there's no real pathway to teach you how to get there. So you have to build yourself up. You have to find people who've done it. You either, whether you talk to them or you watch what they've done, you follow them and like, okay, I want to do that. I like what she's doing. I'm gonna take a little bit of that, a little bit of that. I'm not like that. That's not my personality, so I won't be like that. But you just kind of gotta really build yourself up and like say, this is what I'm going to do, and I can do it. And
I like the connecting with your core values though. Sounds like you're doing exactly what Coach T should be doing. And this is you at your core. It doesn't matter if you're what it is. It's just like anchoring to your values. And obviously, starting anything, you have to make some sacrifices,
that's
right? And but the greater good, like what you're doing is
true.
beyond is the impact that you can have with this program is something that is beyond just like, oh, I want to make more money, because a lot of nurses don't want to leave bedside because of that money. They really attach to it. But when you are able to make impact, I can't. You can only know it by experiencing it when you are able to help somebody,
That's
and not like we do at the bedside. When you're able to do it, not knowing what you're going to get paid,
yeah,
not knowing where the money gonna come from,
yeah,
but knowing that there will be impacts. I just believe that the blessings come from, it's not just money. It's, God blesses us in
yeah.
so many different ways that we don't even think about. And so just from what I'm hearing from you, that's I'm gonna give you that third one.
Yes.
Community service, right? Community service.
Yeah, I love
And how
it.
are the babies now? How are the babies
My
now?
son is 8 and my twins are 4. So
Oh, that's
Okay.
cool.
they're
Oh, that's a good age.
I'm like, okay, okay, we got this. We got
Yeah, that's a
this.
good age. That's a good age.
Mhm. You can just
So if you had one thing to recommend, like a book, have you read, is there one book that like made you like, whoa, this is like, any book you could recommend for the listeners?
for me, I actually have a lot of books, but the one book that I feel um was along my own health journey. That's how I started with health coaching. Is I went out and I was like, oh, I want to be health coaching, but it was for me to get healthy myself, like get physically in
Hmm.
shape, start working out, start eating better. Um, so Atomic Habits, that one,
Ah, yeah, that's a good
it's
one.
that. When I
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay, and it makes it easier to, and when you start going through the steps, you're like, oh, okay, I'm making change. This is a habit. I'm
Hmm.
changing my.
Hmm.
So I would say if you're anyone looking to make any kind of change, find a book that will help you start the process, because it's not going to be easy.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
not an easy road. It's not comfortable. There's a lot
Mm-mm.
of days you might be like, "What? I'm about to go just apply." I still got my Indeed and my LinkedIn, and I'm like, a couple times
Listen.
I'm in applications for a while. I was like, maybe I need to go back into this this
Right?
world.
Definitely relatable, because I
Yeah.
swear I'm still like that too. I'd be like, I could really be just making and not even have to. Why am I killing my like? Why am I? But it's like we said, it's just so much
Passion.
bigger.
Yeah.
Um, just the connection, and it's like you're already here,
Yeah,
so why go back?
yeah.
You're not gonna be happy. You're not gonna be fulfilled.
Right.
So just thug that thing out.
Mhm.
So how can people find you, Coach T? I know you have an offer too that we'll talk about shortly, but how can people find you? Where are you on social and any other platforms?
You can find me on Instagram, Bottles, Boobs, and Feeding Tubes. That's my blog site. And then I also have Tasha with Aurora Health and Wellness. You can follow my website is Aurora Health and Wellness LLC.org. Then I also have Bottles, Boobs, and Feeding Tubes.com. And I'm
Okay.
also on Facebook. So,
Yes. And guys,
And what's
all
the
of her information will be in the caption below. Go
yes.
ahead, Chris.
I was just gonna ask you the name, if you can tell them the name of your book as well and where they can find that at.
oh, ABC Disability, Getting to Know Kids with Disabilities. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it from my store site, which is Bottles, Boobs, and Feeding Tubes.store, or
Oh.
bookbaby.com. You can also purchase it from there.
I
Love
didn't catch
it.
that. ABCD is ability, like
Disability.
disability. Oh my goodness, that's good.
Love
That's a
that.
good play with
Yeah.
words.
Yeah.
I saw it and I kept reading it like disability. Okay, sorry, it took me a while.
Everyone does it.
I got it.
Right.
That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so good. So they'll be able to connect with you on there. And you're in the state of Arizona. So you guys, if you know someone in Arizona, a woman. Now, do they have to already have complications going on to come to you? Or can they come to you even before they deliver, like when they're pregnant, to kind of preventatively address those common issues of pregnant women or postpartum women?
Yes. So if you're thinking about becoming pregnant and you're
Oh,
a
okay.
primary care provider anyway for the annual physical. So you can come to
Mhm.
that, but then also pregnancy wellness coaching and then postpartum support. So anytime during your
That's
journey,
so good. That's so
Yes.
good. I just think
So
about
needed.
I needed that too.
me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
We were
sure.
talking we were
That's
talking
really
about
good.
that a little bit before, how we were both like, "Yeah, I probably coulda used some help back then."
Yeah,
So you did know.
The
Yeah.
trauma. Yeah,
Mhm.
seriously. And to be prepared for it, you know? That's the key there. So, well, thank you so much,
Yes.
Coach T. Can you tell us about your offer as well, Coach T? 10% off.
She's like, what was that?"
it's 10%. It's 10% off your bottles. Wait, how I go? Bottles, boobs, and feeding
Feeding
tubes.
tubes.
Yes, and the 10% off is for the what?
It's for anything. So I have
Oh,
bookings on there, and then I also do a lot of wholesale purchasing from local businesses. So like candles, body oils. I also have a pregnancy journal that I did wholesale with an author I met not too long ago. So I do vending events. So if you see me out, I have my table set up and all that kind of stuff. So anything that's on my website, 10% off.
10% off. And the code is NurseBoss10, all one word. And this will also be in the caption below. And then also free 30-minute consultation, which I think is super great.
Yes.
So
Yes.
all right, Coach T, thank you so much for
Thank you so
coming, bringing the
much.
value. First of all, thank you for your service on the military
Yes.
level and
Yes.
for us
The
women. Like,
community. Yeah.
we
Yep.
need it so much. And then in particular for women of color, because we already know like the epidemic that's upon us with the maternal rate for Black women. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. And we will definitely get all your information below.
Yes.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.
bye.